What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining the Glad's Horror Channel, the best horror channel here on YouTube. Happy February, which means Happy Black History Month. I wanted to start this month off with a bang. So what I'm going to do today is rank the Candyman series from worst to best. Let's get started. So before I get started on the review, I just wanted to kind of talk about Candyman as a whole and what he meant to me, what the movie means to me. Prior to the movie coming out in 1992, every horror villain before Candyman all looked the same. It was pretty awesome in 1992 to see a horror villain of color come forward, and he could be just as terrifying as anyone that came previously. Now, I talked last year during this month about Mama Walde and Blackula in the movie that came out in 1972, Blackula. The only thing with that is, obviously by the title, it's a blaxploitation version of an already known character in Dracula. You could say that Candyman is similar to Bloody Mary, but that's only based on the chant itself. Nothing about it outside of that mirrors anything having to do with Bloody Mary. So it was unique, it was fresh, and it was one of my favorite horror movies growing up, and it terrified me when I was a kid. So we have to give a huge shout out to Tony Todd and to Candyman for bringing this character forth and allowing it to have the legacy it's had over these spans of years. We just had a new version come out just last year, so it's a huge hallmark now of the horror genre, and I'm excited to see what goes forward with it. But based on this video, let's get into the ranking of the 4 Candyman movies that have been out so far. So coming in at number 4, Candyman 3. Wait, there's a Candyman 3? That's the question that I got from almost everybody that I talked to when the new one was coming out last year, and I was talking about how there were 3. For some reason, no one knew about 3, and it's a good thing that no one really knows about the third one. So the third one followed directly from part 2, from Candyman 2, following the main character of part 2. Her daughter Caroline was in part 3, and she was the main one that Candyman was going after. It was just empty. It was empty. And the way I rank my movies when it comes to horror is mainly wrapped around, obviously it has to be acting, it has to be scares, it has to be the villain themselves, how they are, is it the best we've seen of them, just how they are as a villain, rooted, and last but not least, how close it stays to the original story. So in this one, and across the board, I've never really I can't really remember a best version of Candyman, because he's very consistent in all of them. You know what you get. There's not really a watered down version ever of Candyman in the 4 movies so far. But in this one, the acting was atrocious. It was very, very bad. The kills were, although good, they were lifeless, and they didn't really have the build up to it to make it meaningful when it happened in the way that 1 and 2 did. So to me, it's far and above the worst of the franchise, and number 3 is not even close in relation to this one. This one is very, very bad. One of the worst movies I've seen based on what it's supposed to be. It just, even Tony Todd himself came out in an interview that stated that the movie was not very good and couldn't have been much better. So that's my number 4. Coming in at number 3, this might be controversial, but number 3 for me is Candyman 2021. Listen, I already did my review on Candyman 2021, and I did like the movie. Ranking it number 3, like I just told you about the gap between Candyman 3 and this one, it's not even close. So ranking it number 3, even though it's out of 4, might seem bad. Trust me, it's not. Candyman 2021, Candyman 2, and Candyman 1 are very, very close. And I'll give you my reasons as to why this one's ranked where it is. Now, in Candyman 1 and 2, in the origination of Candyman, the movie was about Candyman that sprinkled race into it. because of how his origin story was. Of course, it mentions race, but it still led with Candyman. It was still a Candyman movie, Candyman based, Candyman forward movie. This one felt like a race forward movie with Candyman sprinkled in it. And that's not the original, how Candyman was originally brought forth. That, and it seemed that it was way too heavy-handed in that. That's really the main thing. The acting was good, the story was good. It was kind of strange as far as how the lead was the one, he happens to get bit by stung by the bee, and his arm starts to fall off for no reason at all. It doesn't make any sense. And before, when Candyman would choose somebody in 1 and 2, he would continually stalk them. I don't really understand the purpose of why he had to go through this physical change in order to become the new Candyman, so to speak, if that was the whole goal originally. It just didn't make a lot of sense from a plot point to me as why it even went down that route. So that's my number 3. Coming in at number 2 is Candyman 2. Now, Candyman 2, from an acting perspective, is not better than Candyman 2021. But Candyman 2 was actually the movie that mentioned in depth how Candyman became Candyman. They showed flashbacks to what he did by painting the slave owner's daughter, and them falling in love, and the townspeople tracking him down and sawing off his hand and smearing the beehive, the honeycomb all over his body to attract the bees. They showed all of that. So his origin story was put forward further in part 2 than it was in part 1, which is how you are supposed to carry along a story, right? So that's mainly the reason of why, because it stayed rooted in the original, how it was. Now, even with that, again, it was still Candyman focused with a mention of race, because you really can't have one without the other because of how the origin came. However, it did not, and even though that one showed backstories, it did not go race forward from the beginning. In Candyman 2021, it was race forward from beginning to end. This didn't do that. Also, it showed the depth of the mirror, the significance of the mirror in Candyman 2, whereas everyone stands in front of the mirror and says his name 5 times. But why? Why a mirror? It showed that in Candyman 2, and because of the townspeople were evil, and they wanted to show him what they did to him. So after he had been his arm cut off and everything he'd been stung by bees, they held a mirror up to his face to show himself what he looked like right before he died. So in that movie, in this particular mirror, his soul was trapped in that mirror, because that was the last thing that mirror saw before he died. So the idea of having to destroy the mirror to destroy him makes complete sense from a how he was created standpoint. That's what my number 2. And coming in number 1, it's not even, I mean, everyone knows, obviously, Candyman 1. Candyman 1 was a tour de force. We had never seen anything like it. And one of the things that's underrated about Candyman, when people think of the themes of horror movies, you might think of Halloween, that piano theme. You might think of Nightmare on Elm Street. There's a lot of themes that come to mind. I will put Candyman up there with all of those iconic horror movie themes. Candyman's theme is one of my favorite horror movie themes that I've ever heard. So you have that. Then you have, I love the introduction of Candyman in the parking garage when Helen was walking to her car. I love the introduction. It was foreboding. Yes. It was eerie. He was imposing, and you were just like, oh, something's going down now. And I just love the build up to it. It reminds me of the way Halloween 1 was, because in Halloween 1, Dr. Loomis talked about who Michael Myers was and who was coming. So when he came, you knew it was going down. This entire movie up to his first reveal talked about Candyman and just talked him up, and they built him up very, very well. And then when he came on screen, you were in awe of what you're about to see, and you knew it was going to be an intense, a very brutal ride going forward, and it was. From the moment that after that scene to the next scene with all the blood, I'm not going to get into what happened, but you guys, if you've seen it by now, you know that how Helen woke up on the floor, or what she was covered in, and what happened. So that there's very little I can say negative about Candyman 1. And just the idea of Helen, you had to feel for Helen as well, for
So I was obliged.
not knowing who Candyman was, calling him, and then her entire life just got turned upside down, one bad break after another. And then the way it ended up after she rescued the baby was just amazing. The movie is a perfect 10. I really, really like Candyman 1, so that's my number 1 of the franchise. What did you guys think? Have you seen all the Candymans? If you have, I want to know in the comments what you guys think. How do you rank them? I want to know more what you thought about Candyman 2021, because some people I've debated with this have really, really loved it, and they think it's the best ever, and I completely get it. I just, looking at it, I've seen Candyman 1 a lot. I've seen Candyman 2 a lot. I've seen Candyman 3, not so much because I really don't like watching it. Candyman 2021 I've seen already probably 3 or 4 times. And I like the entire series. But to me, there's nothing better than the original as far as this series is concerned. If you're new here, this is the Glad's Horror Channel, the best horror channel here on YouTube. Like, share, and subscribe to this channel. I'll see you guys next time.